question on this. Is there going to come a point where you will be signing up to a LIV contract or a joint LIV contract and accepting the money in the end because they've come together with the PGA Tour?
I think, well, so to me, what I would love LIV to turn into is almost like the IPL of golf. Right. So like IPL and cricket, I think has been, and they take 2 months during the calendar. We're like, okay, you got your 4 weeks in May and your 4 weeks in November, and you go and you do this team stuff, and it's a bit different and it's a different format. If they were to do something like that, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds like fun, because you're at least working within the ecosystem. You know, as you were saying before, it's not like the Saudis in football are trying to take over the entire sport, where, you know, as I said at the start, the Saudis basically expose some of the flaws in the structures of professional golf, and they could come in with, you know, $1 billion or $2 billion, which would, you know, couldn't even buy you a football club in some instances, but they've been able to completely disrupt our game with that money. So, you know, it exposed some of those flaws, and hopefully, you know, we can all put our heads together and think about what's the best thing for the game going forward.
Reading through this letter, you know, it mentions the creation of a new entity and the for-profit component. For me, the strongest concept that LIV has had has been the team concept. That's been the strongest component of their product, is the fact that it was doing something different, new, engaging, looking to create this franchise kind of model that we see in Formula One, that we see in the Indian Premier League for cricket, right? So within their first year of launch, the IPL, the second most watched cricket game on earth after the Cricket World Cup, was the Indian Premier League final. And since then, it's grown into this huge entity of franchise teams. They play, they bid on players, billions of dollars changing hands, and it really elevated the game without taking away from the rest of the tour. And for me, when they talk about creating this new profit entity, the way that I feasibly see this perhaps working is PGA Tour knew LIV was going to be a thorn in their side for many years. There's the legal implications, as you mentioned. They're not going to go through messy lawsuits for some decade or so, sitting in courtrooms trying to resolve this. They knew LIV was going to be a problem, regardless of the fact that I don't ever see it was going to take over the PGA Tour. And I think LIV knew that. I think LIV knew under the current state of play, they were not going to surpass the PGA Tour in terms of revenue or viewership or anything like that. So in terms of both of them coming together, for me, the way I see this perhaps working is PGA Tour keeps its schedule in many ways exactly the same as it stays now. DP World Tour keeps their schedule in many ways the same way that it stays now. And then this other entity is formed with Team Golf, and it draws on players from either DP World Tour, PGA Tour. They come together, they play as teams for those rounds, and those teams get franchised, and that's the profit element of the LIV aspect.
I love that. I actually really like that idea. It's so funny, the team concept, it's so foreign to me. And the reason is because it's a foreign thing, literally. We don't, like, F1, for me, I mean, F1's kind of big now, but like F1's never been big for me. So the team concept, like, it just doesn't resonate with me. I don't watch cricket, so it doesn't resonate with me. So I speak out of an abundance of ignorance that, like, I don't really, like, I was going to say, like, I don't really like the team concept, but again, it's really just out of ignorance more than anything. But what I love about what you said is that retaining the PGA Tour schedule and just having the individual part component of it in large part, but then having that new entity kind of flash the team concept. So it's not necessarily interrupting what I'm accustomed to, what I like. I love that. I think that's, I mean, is that just, you're speculating, right? You're just kind of coming up with something?
I'm completely speculating with that, definitely. But it's something that I see as feasible and workable, because I don't see the LIV Tour continuing as this individual leaderboard sort of mixed in with team aspects, because that was not working. And the only reason they were kind of going down that route is because they weren't 2 years ago allowed in the room to speak with Jay and form this merger earlier. I mean, this was originally their concept. They moved away from it. The concept as it stood was not going to work and function. They knew that, but then PGA Tour on the other side also knew that this was going to be a massive pain in their ass for the next decade or so. Mm-hmm. So the merger, as I kind of see it, would be, you've got this team concept that runs independently. It doesn't interfere with, like, the major events. Like, they're not going to schedule the team event opposite the Memorial. They're not going to schedule the team event opposite the Genesis at Riviera. Right. But instead, you know, when the Palmetto Championship's on, that might be running as the kind of alternative to their event as it has been. Meanwhile, John Rahm and Team Nike is facing off against Rory McIlroy and Team TaylorMade, and they're drawing on players from both of the tours, whoever they can sign, and creating a kind of dynamic product that opposite the individual leaderboards I could see functioning. And in some ways, that sounds great. That sounds awesome. We get all of the best players at the key marquee tournaments that we want. We get a new exciting element in terms of the team golf. Sponsors going to be happy because that's extremely marketable, and I could see it growing from there.
Jay and everybody else that's in charge, he's at Deep Dive Golf. His name is David Bieleski. Don't say Bieleski because I've messed that up. David Bieleski. David, listen, I'm sure they've run through a plenty of scenarios. They probably have a framework in place, but if that's not their framework, again, I'm speaking out of a bit of ignorance here, but I think it should be. Like, I'm truly excited about that. What I thought you were going to say was that, something to the effect of like, you're going to have like sort of team golf with the regular PGA Tour schedule, and it's going to be somehow incorporated into the individual format, which honestly, maybe it's cool, but I'm just not super into. But the way you set it up, that's exciting.